Okay, so we're here at Blackmagic. We're here with Stuart.
Yep.
Stuart's going to give us an overview of the new version of DaVinci Resolve 16, which has just been updated and you've announced at the show.
Yeah, it's a pretty exciting update, to be honest. I mean, one of the things that we've sort of seen with Resolve over the last few years is that we've been putting a lot of emphasis on the edit page. But what we started to really look at was how can we take a little bit of a step back and actually look at speed. Because I think that in the editing world, speed is becoming, it's one of the main priorities, really. But what you sort of find is that there are varying different cultures within the editing world. You've got those guys that are craft editors that like to spend a lot of time, working on transitions, working on their finessing of the edits. And then you've got those guys that just want to kind of get stuff down on the timeline and get stuff out. And what we're starting to see is that, I guess, that the world is kind of morphing more towards those guys that really just want to get stuff out. So what we did is we developed a new page which is called the cut page, and one of the things with Blackmagic is we've got a lot of expertise in the manufacturing space, and when you actually look at the manufacturing world, you look at how do you cut out waste, because anything that's wasteful ultimately means that you're slowing down a process. So we started to look at things like when you're zooming in, zooming out, moving backwards and forwards down the timeline, having to access specific bins, having to open up other menus. And we thought that if we could adopt some of that principle for manufacturing into the editing space, could we come up with something where every move is a productive move, so that all that waste is eliminated, we become a lot more efficient. And that's what we come up with the edit page. Sorry,
sounds good.
The cut page.
Right, let's take a look.
Yeah, so what you're seeing here is, I guess the first thing to say is that the addition that we made of the cut page is entirely non-destructive of the original edit page.
Right.
So what I'll do first is if I go backwards and forwards between the two, you'll see that in the edit page, this is the timeline that we've got going. This is a Matt Goss project that's been shot in the last few weeks. We're working within a couple of layers. We've got audio tracks, typical edit. And then if we go to the cut page, what you'll actually see is a different view of that same timeline. Now what we've done is we've broken this down into a series of sections. So in your top left-hand corner you have all of your media. This is where typically you'll be familiar to dragging clips across. You've then got your source window and your program window, which you can toggle. And then across the middle of the GUI, we've actually got a representation of the entire timeline. So again, if I just go back to that edit page, what you'll see is that actually is the same as what you're seeing up here. Now, the benefit of that means that at any point in time, as I move up and down the timeline, what you can see is that I'm seeing everything all at one time.
Right.
Now, underneath what we're seeing is a zoomed-in view of the portion of the timeline that I'm working on at any one particular time. So it's probably in this case, we're sort of seeing there that we're picking up this layer 2, layer 1 there. We've got the ability to kind of go in there, mark in, mark outs, and as you can see, is that whilst the mark in, mark out is appearing on the page below, we've also got in the center section also the in and outs.
Right.
Now, a couple of cool things with this is that I have the ability to flick between timeline and source mode, so I can actually, using the keyboard, which is the new DaVinci Resolve keyboard, this allows us to actually zoom between the two. Now, if you look at the top of the screen, you'll see that I'm actually switching there between timeline and source. So if I didn't have the keyboard, I could still do this with the mouse. If I'm on that source, I can go into my clip, I can mark my ins, I can mark my outs, I can do a place on top. There's my clip in. Hold on. So this is all about speed and all about visually being able to see everything.
Yeah.
A couple of other things which are quite nice is that if I've got a selection of clips, say 5 clips there, what I could do is I can actually click on this button here, which is called source tape. So what happens is that as I create a mark in, mark out point, I can actually zoom in, zoom in, zoom in as I'm working on a specific area of that clip. But in this case, what I've actually done is I've selected all 5 clips within my bin. I've opted to look at that in a source view, and what you can actually see is that this is clip 1. You can see the break point there. That's the end of the clip. Clip 2, clip 3, clip 4, and clip 5. So basically, what we're seeing there is all of those clips in that window. Now, what's great about that is that I can go in. I mean, I've marked in and unmarked out there. But if I come back out, I could come down here and I could go mark in, mark out. I could do an overwrite. I could do mark in, mark out. I could do an overwrite. And I could literally go through all of my clips and just drop down all of the time. Now, as you can see, pretty quick. You know, it's very, very efficient to use. This is now in public beta, so you can go to the website, you can download it. It's free of charge for the non-studio version. For the studio version, it's $295. And yeah, we recommend anyone to go and check it out.
Cool, thanks very much. And I think that's a good thing. There's a lot of people new to our channel who are getting into video editing for the first time. They might be doing something is basically starting their first YouTube channel, and a lot of people don't realize that actually a lot of the power is available in that free version of DaVinci Resolve, and you can get it completely for free.
Yeah, well, I think that this is Blackmagic's philosophy, and where we've come from as a business is that we've come from that post space. What we benefited from was that our original products were actually capture and playback devices. So we were the first company to develop uncompressed SDI capture and playback back in the early Final Cut Pro days. Over the course of the last sort of 10-15 years, we've developed more and more products in that post field, but also branched out into cameras, production switches, and lots of other production tools. But our love has always been in that post space. Yeah. Now, when we took over DaVinci, at the time, DaVinci Resolve was considered to be a high-end Hollywood tool that was retailing at around about £200,000 just for that unit itself. And one of the last big projects, which was actually run on DaVinci Resolve, was Avatar. Now, we acquired the company just after that, and what we decided was we wanted to take this high-powered Hollywood tool, and we wanted to make it available to the masses, and that's what we've done. We've brought it down now. We've made it accessible to everybody. We've given people the opportunity to go and download Resolve for free, which means that they can start working on full jobs from day one. And if you're interested not just in editing, but then eventually things like effects and color and audio, Resolve also has that as well.
That's the great thing. I mean, we've been using it in the office and use it for quite a long time. That's the thing, you don't have to use everything in the program. I think some people get confused when they first open up, and there's quite a lot there. You don't actually have to go through every single section. You can kind of take each step as it comes and just do a bit of editing if you want to use that, and then go back to color correction if you want to start learning that in the future.
Yeah, I think any tool like this needs to be intuitive. And the big problem today is that if you are looking to try something new, you've got to always look at your investment both in time and money. And if I decide, okay, do you know what, I really want to go and learn compositing. Okay, well, what are the options on the market, and how much is that going to cost me to go and learn it? The great thing with Resolve is that because it's free to download from the Blackmagic website, you can actually download it for an editing purpose today. And like I've done in the last sort of 12, 18 months, is that I've started to get more familiar with Fusion. Now, at first it might look quite sort of daunting, but there's so many online resources out there. There's so many people sharing their knowledge and their facts on places like YouTube that you can learn to pick up those skills bit by bit. And there's plenty of good training centres out there as well that are willing to educate people too.
Perfect. Well, Stuart, thank you very much for your time. It's great to see the new additions in DaVinci Resolve. Thank you. Thank you.